This committee of the whole meeting for Monday, November the 7th is called to order. May I have a motion to adopt the November 7th committee of the whole meeting agenda as presented? Councillor Tripp, Councillor Butler. Councillor Tripp.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm wondering if we can add a late item to the agenda. That would be the pit water meter charges letter that was sent out by the city. I did send an email out during the week, and I'm glad to see that the changes that I had suggested were incorporated into a new letter, but I do believe that we should discuss this letter as a council.
I'll second the motion.
Councillor Thompson.
My concern in that is that we are getting into micromanaging. So I think constructive criticism, as Councillor Tripp had to put in her email, is fine. But I personally will not support the motion to discuss the letter. I just don't think that's under the purview of council.
Yeah, my recommendation would be the same to council to not add this on the agenda today, because the issue has been addressed, and I would need a notice of motion for that. Councillor Tripp.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm hoping that the council might reconsider, because there are a number of issues involving that letter, specifically one that has to do with the time that that particular bylaw was signed. It wasn't signed until January the 11th, and I don't know that it's actually even legal to ask.
Councillor Tripp, we cannot discuss the contents of that at this point because you're delving into it.
I'm just hoping that we would be able to bring that forward so that we can.
You have made your point. Thank you.
People of the community.
There's a motion on the table. All in favor?
Thank you. No.
Pull back the vote.
No, it's pulled. Anyone opposed? The motion is defeated. All in favor of adopting the agenda as presented? So carried.
Opposed.
Opposed, Councillor Tripp, Councillor Butler. A brief reminder that there's an in-camera meeting directly following this committee of the whole meeting. Moving on to our registered petitions and delegations. First one would be delegation from TELUS. Subject matter, update on the current TELUS PureFibre build. Recommendation is to receive for information a presentation from TELUS. May I have a motion to move her? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Hammond. Is there anyone from TELUS?
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. So we just want to give you a brief overview of the progress that TELUS is making as far as our construction of the PureFibre network here in Grand Forks. So currently, you can see on the map here, we have 5 completely active neighborhoods, 2 partially active, and 3 more in progress. So we're making great progress here in Grand Forks. And so we have made an $8.6 million investment here in our infrastructure here in Grand Forks. We're providing cutting-edge technology for all the residents and businesses who sign up for service, which includes Gateway T2300 modems with 5G wireless capabilities, 4K compatible PVRs, and this is the most advanced and future-proof products being delivered right to the door. With such cutting technology available, this will allow local businesses to expand their digital reach to a global marketplace as well as entice businesses tired of high real estate prices in the bigger centers to lovely communities like this here in Grand Forks. Because we now have their technology at their fingertips here to do business. So all business can now take advantage of solutions like telecommuting and cloud computing, which of course is good for the environment because it cuts down on commuting and therefore reduces carbon emissions. We plan on connecting 90% of the residences and businesses in the build footprint here over the next couple months. And like I said, we have the 7 neighborhoods right now available. And currently we're about 80% complete on the main serving lines, but we still have much work to do with the drops of the physical fiber that connects directly to the individual homes and businesses. As far as what TELUS itself has brought to the local economy, we've had many out-of-area crews working in town over the last couple of months using local businesses, as well as we've created 2 new full-time jobs for area techs. So, the interesting part about what we're able to do with this new service is that we can offer an upload speed that's equal to a download speed. So, for example, if you want to download a 1 gigabit TV show, that would normally take you 24 minutes on a 6 megabit connection, but with 150, it's available in just 59 seconds. And also, if you want to upload 20 vacation family photos, to upload those on a 6 megabit connection, it would take 7 minutes versus just 18 seconds on 150. So this capacity of equal upload and download speeds is unique to PureFibre. And not only will Fibre 150 customers receive the benefit of the fastest and most reliable internet technology, they'll have the best experience when uploading as well. So when people are using things like YouTube and Dropbox, when it's easy to do that and it's quick, they're more likely to use those things, so it's a huge benefit. Most of the people in this room are probably not huge, massive multiplayer online gamers, but there is quite a large group of that people as well, to which upload is a major contender. And using new technology like Facebook Live to broadcast and YouTube, those are all things that will become easier with this symmetrical service. And people that use home automation products like Nest as well, having that upload availability is huge. So I'm going to be here throughout the next year to support the community and be a face-to-face presence at many events throughout the community. And the response from the community to date has been fantastic. Everyone is very excited and eager to have a taste of the services that we offer on Fibre. We've had many people that are, I had one young man that came up to me at the fair and screamed in excitement and fell to the ground when he heard that we were offering a symmetrical service. So anyway, there's a lot of people that are definitely thrilled at what we're able to do here from Grand Forks. So the other thing is that at TELUS we understand that to do well in business, a company must do good in the communities where we live, work, and serve. We are proud to support the Boundary Family and Individual Services Society and the Boundary Food Bank through their participation in our Fibre for Good program. This program provides $25 to the participating charity for every new TELUS Optic TV subscriber until November 15th. So if you've already signed up, keep your eyes peeled for an email offering you the choice of who you'd like to make the donation towards. And our Give Where We Live philosophy has driven TELUS, our team members, and our retirees to contribute more than $125 million, and perhaps more importantly, 3.4 million volunteer hours to charitable organizations throughout BC since the year 2000. So with that, I thank you very much for your time, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to our delegation, I had a young man come around to my door offering the fibre service, and I was interested but haven't heard back. So I'm just curious, people in town that want to hook up to this, is it available now? How do we hook up to it? And how does that change within our house, like the I'm not a techie person, so do you have a new modem that you get? Is there still Wi-Fi? How does it work within your home?
Thank you. Excellent question. So we do, if a gentleman has come around to your home, that means that you would have service there, because the door-to-door reps only will approach homes that have service available. He should be coming back, I would assume, if you're interested in service. So you can also, there's phone numbers and websites that you can also go to. We have a specific one for Grand Forks, telus.com/Grand Forks, and you can order on there as well. But how that looks as far as once you have purchased or decided to order the fiber services, we have an installation tech come and run the fiber line to the inside of the house to a small box that converts the fiber optic light signal into a digital signal that the house can understand. And so, yeah, you get a brand new T2300 gateway modem, as well as if you will use the optic TV service, you'd also get a 4K PVR, and up to 6 of those in the house, depending on how many TVs you have.
May I just add that the rep was also at my place, and it was very streamlined, non-restrictive. Your program was very informative. She was very informative. She explained it all, because my house is wired pretty high tech, so beautiful system you have. I must commend you on it.
Good morning.
Councillor Thompson.
I wanted to say that we have hooked up to the TELUS services at our house and just are thrilled with the service and the speed and the professionalism of your people that came to the door.
Thank you. I appreciate that feedback, Councillor.
Do we have any other questions? So again, I'd like to thank you for your presentation. It was excellent, and keep up the good work.
Thank you, Robert.
So all in favor of receiving? Anyone opposed? So carried. All right, moving on to our next delegation, which is the Phoenix Foundation of the Boundary Communities and Boundary Youth and Philanthropy Club. Subject matter update on the October 24th community conversation and activities and the club vision and plans. I have a motion to receive the information for the presentation. Councillor Tripp, seconder, Councillor Thompson. Good morning, Mr. Smith.
Good morning. I probably don't need that. Yeah, I just wanted to give Council and Mr. Mayor an update on sort of what's been happening with the Phoenix Foundation of the Boundary Communities. Of course, Christine, or Councillor Thompson, is our liaison on board. But some of the stuff that I've been involved with personally, working with not only the Community Foundations Canada, but with the Vancouver Foundation, in examining how we can be more relevant in our communities. And so I've been engaged in residencies on Bowen Island with some facilitators and the company of representatives from Community Foundations Canada and the Vancouver Foundation on learning how to lead differently. And that is, of course, one of our objectives as the Phoenix Foundation, is not only to grant out to community groups that need that sort of support, but to also provide some guidance. And so I'd like to share with you a little clip that may help to illustrate where we're going.
If you've learned about how leadership is made, let's watch a movement happen start to finish in under 3 minutes and dissect some lessons. First, of course, the leader needs the guts to stand alone. So simple, it's almost instructional. This is key.
I think you'll have to explain the sound there.
Down here.
These shows everyone else.
Okay, we go through this every management meeting.
So it's not about the leader anymore, it's about them. Notice how he's calling to his friends to join in. So it takes guts to be a first follower. You stand out, you brave ridicule yourself. Being a first follower is an underappreciated form of leadership. The first follower transforms a lone nut into a leader. If the leader is the flint, the first follower is the spark that really makes the fire. Now here's the second follower. This is a turning point. It's proof the first has done well. Now it's not a lone nut and it's not two nuts. 3 is a crowd and a crowd is news. A movement must be public. Make sure outsiders see more than just the leader. Everyone needs to see the followers because new followers emulate followers, not the leader. Now here come 2 more people, then 3 more immediately. Now we've got momentum. This is the tipping point and now we have a movement. As more people jump in, it's no longer risky. If they were on the fence before, there's no reason not to join in now. They won't stand out, they won't be ridiculed, and they will be part of the in crowd if they hurry. But over the next minute, you'll see the rest who prefer to stay part of the crowd, because eventually they'd be ridiculed for not joining. And ladies and gentlemen, that is how a movement is made. So let's recap what we've learned. If you are a version of the shirtless dancing guy, all alone, remember the importance of nurturing your first few followers as equals, making everything clearly about the movement, not you. Be public, be easy to follow. But the biggest lesson here, did you catch it? Leadership is over-glorified. Yes, it started with the shirtless guy, and he'll get all the credit, but you saw what really happened. It was the first follower that transformed a lone nut into a leader. There's no movement without the first follower. See, we're told that we all need to be leaders, but that would be really ineffective. The best way to make a movement, if you really care, is to courageously follow and show others how to follow. When you find a lone nut doing something great, have the guts to be the first person to stand up and join in.
So what that's meant to illustrate is the role that the Phoenix Foundation is looking forward to playing in the future, and that is to be the second or third follower. We're looking for the nuts out there, and we want to support them and their new ideas, fresh ideas in the Boundary region. And one way that we look forward to doing that is in 2017, Community Foundations Canada has the CFC 150 Fund, where there's opportunities for matching grants up to $7,500, where we match that as well to a combined $15,000 to support community groups who either alone or in concert have come up with $15,000 for projects or events of a celebratory nature to celebrate Canada's 150th. So we want to put that out there because there's a lot of groups that aren't or don't have charitable status, but might benefit through working with the city and its charitable status to put together a proposal that might meet the criteria and then be supported through the Phoenix Foundation. So that's what I'd like to share with you. Next week, in continuing to work with the Vancouver Foundation, I'm going to be working with a fella who's with the foundation in Powell River and others in the Vancouver Foundation to actually embark on a provincial campaign to raise awareness of community foundations throughout BC. So this is going to be a big deal, actually. And I'm pitching that in the spring of next year, that the Vancouver Foundation hold its regional conference here in Grand Forks. So hoping that Council will be interested in supporting that and putting a shine on Grand Forks' apple and really showing what we can do.
Do we have any questions? Councillor Tripp.
Thank you, Mayor Conrad, through you to Mr. Smith. Just a really great thing that you're doing with the Phoenix Foundation and certainly promoting volunteerism, and that's absolutely on my heart. And I'm just really hoping to see, especially as you mentioned, these clubs and groups that maybe don't have charitable status, needing that hand up so that they can flourish and thrive. I think volunteerism is actually an underground economy in our community that really brings in more than we can really know. And I wish we had a better handle on that. But I'm also interested in the youth aspect. Will we be hearing from some of your youth concerning a project that's going on with them?
Yes, certainly. And Avery Nordman, our youth coordinator, will be speaking to it after I leave. I do just want to mention, too, that the community conversation that was held and hosted by the Phoenix Foundation turned out a great group of people, right from Beaverdell through to Christina Lake. Every community was represented, so there's a lot of good feedback that's going back out to them for the reflection, and then perhaps to develop ideas or projects that can take advantage of the funding program that's coming up. And then on the 14th of this month, next Tuesday, Phoenix is hosting a youth forum, community conversation in the same format, to see what different ideas we may pull out from them, and then how to bring those two groups together. It was pretty evident in the vital signs report that came out last year that the way we look at it as adults, the different aspects of our community, is not the same way that the youth look at it. So the object, of course, is to bring those together and see how we can empower the youth to achieve what they think they want to live in, what kind of a community they want to live in. So it's about making them stronger.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Seeing as there are none, thank you once again for your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Council.
All in favor of receiving for information the verbal quarterly, the actual presentation from Phoenix Foundation Boundary Communities? Anyone opposed? So carried. Our next delegation is the Boundary District Art Council Subject Matter Quarterly Report Present.
Oh, excuse me, there's a youth representative.
Oh, youth, my apologies.
Okay.
Good morning.
Morning. You understand sheets. Should be, I think there's only one PowerPoint on there, so it should. Yes, it should. Oh, there's a couple of things. It's, thanks. Maybe that's. Oh, thanks. Oh, okay.
It's a big button.
Yeah. Oh, park. Okay, great. Thanks. Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Avery Nordman, and I am speaking on behalf of the Boundary Youth and Philanthropy Club. I am the youth coordinator for the club, so I will just tell you a little bit about it. These are a few of our members. In total, we have approximately 16 members. 8 of them are from Grand Forks, and the other 8 attend BCSS, so they are from a couple different regions. So we are a group of youth that are like-minded in the thought that we share one common goal, which is youth empowerment in our community, which is the Boundary area. So what we do is we are, like I said, split up into 2 committees, and we fundraise for projects. We offer grants for youth projects, and we create events in order to promote the youth empowerment. As you can see here, 3 of the pictures on the right are from our most recent event, which was an art mentorship program. So what we did was there were 6 youth who participated, and they met for 4 weeks for an hour and a half per session with the Boundary Visual Arts Group. And what they did is with these established artists, we would have like a model for each event, and each person could work in whatever medium they wanted, illustrating or sculpting or whatever they wanted to do with the model. And then the established artists would come around and kind of guide you and lead you, not really controlling what, because it's art, so it was really free within one's own like there was a lot of abstract or realism, and the artists would kind of guide you along the way, which I thought was really cool, rather than kind of in school a little bit more controlled art, and then we ended our exhibit with we ended the session with a 10-day exhibit at Gallery 2. As you can see, those pictures are from our exhibit, and I've heard a lot of great feedback from the community as well as the members who partook in the event. And yes, special thanks to Terry Woodruff from Gallery 2. She was a great help. So we are supported by the Phoenix Foundation. They kind of established the group, and they hired me to kind of get it started as well. They're really inspiring and encouraging, and I'm lucky enough to be able to attend their meetings, which has been a great learning experience for me, as well as it's kind of shown in the group, because since it's such a professional meeting, I can kind of, like something that I've never witnessed before, take what I learn in their meetings or how they run it and then put it towards our group, which has been really helpful, I think, with trying to get everyone involved, and not so much like a dictatorship, but there's quite a bit of democracy. We vote on everything we do, and everyone can contribute to our ideas and events, and we always come up with some sort of compromise. Our ultimate goals, like I said, were youth empowerment, so we want to work to have empowered youth. Just because high school can be such a hard time for so many people dealing with bullying in school and stress, we want people to be empowered and engaged in their communities, whether that be this community, their global community, other communities if they ever leave Grand Forks. We want to create a really strong and confident youth for now and the future. Yeah, we want people to be involved in especially youth too. They're not so involved in the community all the time, and we want to, one of our newest goals is trying to bridge the gap between the generational differences. So hopefully at our youth forum this Tuesday, we'll hear some ideas on how to do that. Here are some of our upcoming events. We will be having a youth writing contest, which is in the works right now. We don't have a final date, but we're hoping to have it in the paper either in November or December. Then we have the Heart in the Boundary youth session, like I said, on Tuesday, the posters on the far right. We are working with Wanda Heck and the Aboriginal community, as well as Miss Doyle, who is the art teacher at the high school, to create an Aboriginal mural project on the Pearly Play Station behind Pearly. So that's a really good opportunity as well to get community artists as well as youth artists involved in a project that could add some color and life to our community. And then we're hoping to also have youth nights, free youth nights in December at the high school, just for some youth bonding and maybe some empowerment games and surveys as well, just to see what people want, like a bigger discussion with a fun twist. So that's kind of what's happening with our club right now, and I want to thank you guys for your time, as well as having the ability to run our meetings at the Scout Hall now, which is really nice to kind of have our own space separate from the school, because we are a community group. So thank you. Any questions?
Councillor Ross and then Councillor Tripp.
Thank you very much, Avery. I've always been moaned the fact that we don't have civics taught in school anymore, and it sounds like you guys are teaching yourselves and doing a better job. I was just wondering, just what's the age range for the youth? I know some young people. It seems like there's an age in the community of post-high school, entering into university, or early, people who are finishing university in the early 20s. And youth wanting to connect, or young adults, in civic activities, and just finding where to do that. So you've given me a great idea, because I'm going to go back and talk to a couple of young people I know who are sort of floundering in terms of finding a place socially and where they can contribute, which I think this seems like it's covering all those bases.
Most of our group.
So what's the ages?
Right now we're just kind of a high school group. I'd say I think there's one grade 8, and then the rest of the group is 9 to 12. And well, it's welcome to grade 8s too. It's just I feel like they're a little bit more intimidated at that point, and they don't necessarily want to get involved in the school right when they're trying to just figure out how to manage high school. But I think we'd definitely be welcome to kids in like, early 20s, or they're getting...
So, but it sounds like it's for younger. This, like right now it's younger.
Currently, just because most of our advertising has been in the high school or on Facebook and
Right.
stuff, and it's kind of mutual friends that have seen things, nothing... I don't know anyone who's 20, and we haven't had anyone...
I wonder if there's like an early career, like a careers, is there other models? Like maybe Gary would know about this too, where there's like where we're mentoring people to take, like mentoring, the Phoenix Foundation is mentoring, obviously, the opportunities you have, but to mentor through to those early adult lives, early adult years into leadership. Like you're already doing it, but for them to go to a next level.
I think that was actually
Young
a thing.
adults.
You guys wanted some new demographics in there to have some younger people or young adults.
Yeah.
We're trying to flesh out how to actually make that happen.
Okay, well maybe we can, oh,
Okay.
yeah,
That's
great.
what we're-
Thank you.
Thanks.
Councillor Tripp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Avery, for that. That's really exciting to see that the young people are getting interested in being involved in the community. And you know, if you start when you're in high school and you learn these values, you'll carry them through the rest of your life. And that's what we need, right? So I guess my question is, it sounds like right now you're just in the high school, and it would dovetail with Councillor Ross's question there. How are you reaching out into the community to try and attract those ones who possibly already have left high school? Are you just thinking about that now, or you actually have some tangible things that you're doing?
We've had, well, like when we were trying to get our group established, we had posters, and there wasn't really an age limit. I think the poster said 13 to 20 or something like that, but then no one reached out to us. So I don't know how to reach out to the young adults. I don't know if I'm assuming on Facebook and stuff. I don't know if they see our stuff. We have a page. I'm not sure, maybe post something in the newspaper. I'm not sure how to attract the younger adults. And
Perhaps that's something that Mr. Smith and that group could give some leadership or oversight to.
yeah, hopefully we can get some other people involved. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Councillor Hammond.
Yes, thank you. I was very pleased to see that this group exists. Last spring, Councillor Butler and I attended the high school grade 10 English speeches they had prepared. And we listened to probably a dozen grade 10 students read their English speeches that they had done. I think they were like 5-minute speeches. And it was interesting. I think the teacher must have put out a topic on what's it like growing up in Grand Forks. And the answers and were so diverse, from it's awful here to it's great. There's so many opportunities. And so it got us thinking about how we needed to connect with the youth to find out what it is that they need here. And I'm glad to see that you have a group in place that is in the high school, that communicates with your peers so that you can get an understanding of what it is that they want, and therefore it can go forward with Phoenix Foundation and see about putting some of their ideas into action. So
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Thank you.
Councillor Butler.
Yeah, I concur with what the other councils have had to say. I'm just wondering where you get your funding from. Is it just from the Phoenix Foundation, or?
Well, we do some fundraising on our own. They manage our finances, but they had a budget for our group in total, so it just comes, if we have any expenses, they cover it through the budget that they have for our group. I believe there was a donor last year is which got it started. I'm not quite sure, but I believe it's something like that, yeah.
And that's what I was wondering, when did your group start?
I'd say we started looking for members last March, and I think we had our first meeting right after spring break.
Awesome.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Avery. That was an excellent report. The Y Shift is a fund within the Phoenix Foundation, and it is intended to be used for youth and philanthropy, which is what Avery is doing. And so there had been a group prior to, maybe 3 or 4 or more years ago, and Becky Dean was the foundation director that assisted with that group. And then when she left, Unfortunately, there wasn't anybody to take on that role. So we're very grateful to Avery for stepping up to the plate and taking on. She's doing a fantastic job, as you can hear.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Seeing there are none, thank you once again, Avery, and my apologies again for inadvertently almost skipping over you.
Okay,
Thank you for your presentation, it was nice. And we've already called the question and responded to it, so that part is done. Moving along now to our next delegation, which is the Boundary District Arts Council, and the subject matter is a quarterly report presentation. May I have a motion to receive for information the verbal quarterly report from the Boundary Arts Council and refers to fee-for-service requested 2017 budgeting process. May I have a mover on that, please? Councillor Hammett, Councillor Butler. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Samantha Mercer-White. I'm the president of Boundary District Art Council. And today I'm here to request the supporting fee of service that we received generously from the City of Grand Forks, which is $4,500. The reason we are requesting this is that as a not-for-profit council, we provide services to the city and we rely on grants and fees of service to continue our services and support that we provide our local artists and the community. I believe that in approving our requests, we benefit by having a strong arts and culture group that works within the community and outside of gallery to providing artist education and programs to the citizens. The City of Grand Forks has always supported the Boundary District Arts Council, and with that, we're continuing to expand our economic development and continuing to reach out to more not-for-profit groups, artist groups, and cultural groups. And with your help, we're hoping to really expand our reach this year. With that, we do 3 main things every year, which is the performance series, which I'm sure you're all aware of. So this year we have Tricontinental, Lauren Elliott, Roma Gree, and Dawn Alder. We also do many activities, including school workshops through British Columbia Arts Week. This year we're hoping to expand and increase the Arts Week to continue supporting the arts throughout the whole month of April. We also do annual grants to our member groups, which help them support their members and how they're able to continue their education or their education and their workshops and just continuing to expand their knowledge in the arts. We also provide annual scholarships to high school students that are involved in the arts right from high school, and that's just to say, you know, good work and continue to endorse and increase your knowledge in the arts. In fostering arts and culture events for all ages, in the Boundary, we strive for excellence. Our not-for-profit volunteer-run organization provides arts experiences in the Boundary that enhance the lives of our residents, and we look forward to a productive 2016-2017 fee-for-service year in collaboration with the City of Grand Forks. Without you guys' support, it makes it very challenging for us to continue in what we're hoping to do. If you have any questions.
Councillor Hammett.
You have to push your button off. Right. Blue one, the big one, the big one, the white one. Thank you. Just wondering, you said that you provide grants to other groups, art groups, and I'm just wondering, how many art groups do we have in our community?
I'm not sure of the exact number. Through our organization, we have 13 member groups that we support annually.
Any other questions? Councillor Tripp.
Thank you, Mayor Conway. Yes, just through to you there. I just was looking at your financial statements here, and just a couple of questions. Looks like your ticket sales have gone down a fair bit in 2016. Is that just because the numbers aren't quite in yet for the whole year, or is this a complete year budget? And then the other thing was that it looks like you're not paying, you hadn't maybe paid as much to performers this year. So is there sort of balance there when you know what your income's going to be, you can attract maybe higher quality performers?
That's a very good question. Previous years, they had anywhere from 3 to 5 performers. Before 2016, there was usually about 5 performances, which was putting us a little under where we could be stable within finding the performers. This year, we decided to go out of the norm and bring in different types of performances, hence Lauren Elliott, who's a comedic act, and Roma Gree, who is a dance troupe. So ticket sales haven't, we still have 2 more shows for the year, so we're hoping that with those 2 shows that we will make up for the funds to help us break even. We've also looked at not necessarily canceling out the performance series, but changing the direction of it, providing more options for youth, which we believe is one of the issues. With the performance series, it's they were trying to reach out to a different demographic. A lot of the performance series were for people over the age of 50. This year we're really working hard to get some more youth involved by finding youth reps and getting their opinion on what they'd like to see, as well as supporting the families and trying to get some more children's shows so that families have a place to go and see the entertainment, expanding the arts to the next generation so that we can continue.
Thank you.
Councillor Hammond.
I'm just curious, on your revenue portion of your statement, are you receiving any funding from RDKB? Because I'm not seeing anything on there.
We currently are not.
And you've requested funding?
We haven't. With the Arts Council, last year, the Art Council almost closed its doors. So we've built a whole new board of directors. We have a whole new group of people involved. So this last year has really just been a learning curve for us, and this year is where we make the changes and hopefully really increase the arts awareness within the community.
Follow up to that. Yeah, your name is the Boundary Arts Council, Boundary District Arts Council, and I'm just curious as to why you've never approached the regional district since they cover more territory than we do. I'm not saying that I begrudge the money that we donate to you, I just think that you're operating with a very tight budget, and the more you can access, the better. I would strongly suggest going after the regional district.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. The Boundary District Arts Council was arose many years ago when the city was giving out grants and aid, and the late Dr. John Nielsen came and made a presentation to council with the idea that they would form this group, and that if the city gave funding to that organization, they in turn would fund their membership. And I'm really excited to hear, Sam, your presentation that you are going out and doing different things to a different demographic and for families. And just to add on to what Councillor Hammett was saying, you may want to approach not just the regional district per se, but the directors, Director Russell for Area D Rural Grand Forks, and perhaps Grace McGregor, Area C Director Christina Lake. And
Vicky.
And Director Vicky Gee from Area E in the West Boundary, and possibly they can bolster your monies, and so that you can do bigger and better things.
Thank you very much for that. We as the council weren't aware that there was funding opportunities through RDKB. With that, I will definitely be on it. Thank you very much.
Are there any other questions? Councillor Thompson.
just to follow up, approach the directors, not the trail office, but contact each individual director. And they will tell you what the process is for them to give consideration.
I will definitely do that. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing as there are none, thank you for your presentation, Samantha.
Thank you.
I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Anyone opposed? So carried. Our next item, our regional director, Director Russell, is not present with us this morning, so we will move on past item 4, on to presentations from staff. First one being from the Manager of Development and Engineering Services, subject matter Clean Water and Wastewater Fund, Wastewater Treatment Plant Upgrade Grant Application. Morning. Go ahead.
Hi there. We'd like to get your support in applying for a grant for our wastewater treatment plant upgrades. And it's not just the plant, it's actually our overall wastewater treatment system. And they just announced this fall that they're putting, I believe it's about $2 billion into these projects. Have to be complete by next year, I believe. So we've got several reports in the past. So this is basically a shelf-ready project to move forward with. We had, these projects were spread out over about 10 years in order to budget for them. But now that this grant has come forward, our contribution has to be 17%. Normally our contributions have to be between 30 and 50% for these projects. So this is a really great opportunity for us to take those 10 years worth of projects and put them all into one large project and get a really great deal on it. So we'd like to move forward with that. And the other, we're allowed to put 2 grant projects forward. We can either have 2 capital projects, a capital and a planning, or 2 planning projects. So we'd like to also put forward a grant for our sewer phasing plan as well, which ties quite nicely in with this project. Any questions?
To our CEO, Charles.
Mr. Mayor, another piece that falls into this is the Biosolids Management Council is in a position where they're going to be, you know, they have to address that next year. It's one of those situations that we can't let the system fail, and it's at the point where it's very close to failure. This process here would incorporate all that, so we would leverage your $500,000 you're going to invest and turn it into $4 million. The manager talks about accelerating the financial plan, which is what would happen out of this. But it is very important to council to consider that because it is 17 cents on the. I mean, you're getting a considerable amount of cost reduced to the citizens. So the information here, and one of the other pieces in this report was really significant was the consideration of a potential for a septage receiving facility, which we don't have in the boundary. Currently, it's all dumped up at the landfill. And that's as far as we know where it's being dumped. But we've talked a little bit about that as far as talking with the regional district about that. But it is something that we can talk about later on in the process. But again, it's a great opportunity for the city to leverage funding, and the provincial government is making that funding available by the deadline of November 23rd is the deadline for this. So you can see that it is an accelerated process, and council has already invested into the division of this process.
Councilor Cook.
Thank you, Mayor Conrad. Yeah, when I looked at this, I thought, wow, this really looks like it could be, you know, the fix. But I just was wondering, you folks know what the grant application looks like, and where do you think that this project might fit in terms of receiving that grant?
This project is Clean Water Wastewater Fund, so it fits very well. It's probably one of the projects we have that fits best of all of them.
Councilor Crogg.
I'll make a recommendation that council direct staff to develop and submit a proposal for the treatment plant upgrades, and that they also direct staff to develop and submit a proposal for the phasing plan.
Councilor Butler.
I'll second the motion.
Any other discussion? Councillor Thompson? Yeah.
I would, just through you, Your Worship, to our CAO, is this one of those shelf-ready projects that we've got because we've done the asset management plan, and so we're ready to go?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, this is part of our process of having our 20-year plan in place, so now we're ready to act on this funding that when the provincial government makes it available, so we are ready, shelf ready. It's a good point. The other piece that was missing in the, let's talk about the sewer phasing plan, is it allows us to consider where we're going to be many years down the road and give some certainty to our residents that want to know when we're going to be phasing. And when developers come along and they are wanting to develop in a certain area, we know what we're expecting. So it is part of our organization being ready. Thank you.
Councillor Butler.
Speaking in favor of the motion, I think it's excellent that we only have to put in 17% if we're approved for this project, and it's amazing that we do have projects that are so involved and shelf ready. Compliments to staff on being up on that. Of course, I am disappointed that we haven't taken any initiative or any risk into looking into enzymatic action for digestion of the sludge in the sewer ponds. I think that would be a great innovation for Grand Forks to lead out in. I've spoken about it before, and unfortunately there's been no interest in looking into that. But at this point, a 17% donation to the project, if we're approved, I think is a great opportunity for us.
Or CEO, Mr. Allen.
Mr. Mayor, yeah, thank you for that, Mr. Mayor. The one thing is I'd like to make it very clear, we have reached out to the proponent with the product to do a test case so they could prove it to us, and they've declined. They haven't been able, they don't want to make the investment to prove it. They would like for us to invest into the process. We've done considerable work checking with engineers across Canada through our engineering firm to confirm the use of the substance, but they said with the relationship to the garbage that we have in our sewage treatment ponds, that it will not digest the garbage. And there's a strong portion of garbage in our lagoons that has to be removed because we just, if you recall, last year we installed the, what's that called, the Edwards grinder that separates the garbage, and that process now is being undertaken, whereas all of that garbage used to end up into the sewer pond. So now we're in a situation where that is no longer the case. So that may be something that we'd like to consider in the future, but again, it hasn't been proven, and it's not something that the proponent has wanted to invest into our community. So we're waiting for him, eagerly waiting for him to come forward with his development plan that he would do a test case for us. But again, we're not going to be taking that risk without them proving that scenario to us, to the city.
Any further discussion? So I'll call the question. All in favor? Anyone opposed? So carried. Moving on to our Deputy Manager of Operations, subject matter, the BCAAP grant and early budget approval. And the recommendation is to Council to give an early budget approval for the 2017 $55,000 for the upgrade of the navigation and lighting system as part of the application for the BCAAP grant for 2017-2018, and refer the report to the November 7th, 2016 regular meeting for decision. May I have a mover on that, please? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Tripp. Is there any, would you like to comment on the?
Sure. Like in general, we're just having, as part of our asset management plan, we're trying to always plan ahead. Some of these items, like the AWAS, for example, was planned to be replaced in about 3 years from now anyways. The problem came in where the system's failing and the manufacturer is pulling out. So it's a great opportunity again to go for only having to put in 25 cents on the dollar into a replacement program. And with the solar panels, on that end, it would buy us 24/7, 365 support, because the methanol fuel cells would cover us in the event of smoke events, for example, like when we had the fires happen last year. Even with new lights up, that still doesn't help if the batteries can't get charged. So we'd get around that problem and, yeah, help out.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can't recall, but what is the RDKB's investment in our airport?
To our,
You know the answer.
yeah, none.
Okay.
They're not prepared to fund anything on the airport. They're willing to participate in major upgrade projects to a degree, but they will not do any.
Upgrade project.
Well, we haven't been, I don't know if we've approached them yet on this matter yet.
So, Mr. Mayor, what part of that discussion will be, we can have this discussion again with Director Russell when he's present. And that's part of that process, to have that discussion. But what we're doing right now is we want to apply for the grant.
Yeah.
And should there be an opportunity for him to fund stuff, we would just simply send a letter to him in respect to that and ask him if he would like to fund it. But part.
Send the bill.
Doesn't quite work. Director Russell does not have the ability to award funding or give money. It has to go through the RDKB as a general.
But we all know it's ridiculous, right?
We've already presented it. I've already brought it up at the meetings.
Put him on the hot seat last time. Oh, well.
So I'll call the question. All in favor? Anyone opposed? So carried. Excuse me again. The next subject matter is from our Chief Financial Officer. Subject matter is the memorandum regarding the Quarter 3 2016 financial report. And the recommendation is to receive the memorandum from the Chief Financial Officer regarding the Quarter 3 2016 financial report. May I have a move, please? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Butler. All in favor? Councillor Butler first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to our CFO for preparing these. It's really wonderful to have these quarterly reports now to be able to look through. But since they are fairly new, there are a few questions that I have on the different line items here. The first one being the slag revenue seems to be down. I'm just wondering if that's because we don't receive the last payment until the end of the year. The second question is sale of assets, 243,000. Just wondering what that was for, and if that's because the land sale has closed with the Tim Hortons development.
To our CFO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Regarding the land sales, those are for the sale of 2 properties that we made, and not the Tim Hortons. Oh, and regarding the slag revenue, I believe that's it's just a timing issue. We actually invoice them monthly. So.
Councillor Tripp.
Thank you, Mayor Conrad, and through to our CFO. I really want to say how much I appreciate these reports, and even they're just very clear. And it's just great to be able to see things and understand, where the money's coming from and where it's going. So I just want to say I really, really appreciate how well these are outlined, and the descriptors and everything else are really good. I did have a couple of questions. On the capital expenditure sheet, in there's a couple of items coming out of electrical reserves and wastewater reserves. Now, I'm not aware of anywhere where those actual reserve funds are noted, so I'm just wondering how that is accounted for. And then the other thing that I was looking at there was our basically it looks to me, and I'd like some explanation if my numbers aren't right here, that when we add up our revenues versus all of the expenses from the different general and utilities, we're running at basically exactly very close, within a couple $100 of the number for profit that is our capital expenditures. So the question would be, are any capital expenditure amounts listed in the expenses in the general and the utilities expenses, or are they all in these capital expenditures separate from that? Okay, throw too much at you at once.
Turn your
The capital expenditures are all separate in the capital expenditures report.
And so then the question would be the electrical and wastewater reserve amounts.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just recalling that the there is very little being put away into the water and wastewater funds because they're actually just running just to keep the lights on. We informed council that you're not putting any money away to renew any of those assets at this point, and you're actually taking $400,000 a year into your operating budget from the electrical reserve to fund your operating budget. So that would fund things like gallery, museums, or however you wanted to allocate that funding. But it does offset, which is the benefit to the municipality to have that type of revenue to help keep the taxpayers' bills down. But it's something that we're considering as part of the asset management planning is understanding how our revenues are being allocated.
Councillor Thompson and Councillor Tripp.
Just through you, Your Worship, to our CFO, I'm wondering if the reserve, the electrical reserve, the water, wastewater, and water, would that be what I would have referred to in my day as the surplus, and not an actual reserve with a separate account, dollars in the bank?
Or CFO.
I believe that what I think where the confusion arises is that if the Schedule C on the financial plan bylaw, the capital reserve is just listed as one amount in there, whereas it's actually three separate reserves in there. So that's where your electrical and your wastewater and your water would come in.
Councillor Tripp.
Just going back to our CEO's comment about the electrical utility putting in $400,000. Now, right now, the electrical utility revenue over expenses is running around $210,000. But if you look at the water, electrical, and wastewater utility expenses together, we're actually running a net loss of about $104,000. So this $210,000 revenue, I'm just wondering, I know we're only looking at the third quarter, so would we be expecting another basically doubling of that by the end of the year? And I'm just wondering, is there going to be $400,000 to be able to put into back into reserves?
Towards you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as part of the process right now, our new CFO is going through the process to clarify those points. The expectation was in the budget that we would have that amount going in, but again, our CFO will be confirming those amounts and reporting them back to council as part of the budget process to ensure that we are meeting the targets that were set out in the financial plan. So once we complete the year will be wrapped up once the auditors have completed their process. We should be wrapped up our year by probably mid-March or the end of March 2017. Then we'll have a clearer picture of allocations of funds and what passed the thresholds according to our TCA policies as set by council and by the requirements set out by the auditors in our processes. So we'll have things that will be reconciled with council throughout that process, but those financial reports and statements will be presented as part of the auditing process. So if there's anything else we could add in there.
I just wanted to add too that you have to bear in mind that amortization is a non-cash item, so it basically gets added back.
That it's 1.2 million right now.
Correct. That's correct.
Thank you. Yeah.
Councillor Butler.
A couple of questions. Under the capital expenditures, it seems that we've only spent 14% of our budget this year. I'm just curious why, when we've allocated $7 million, we've only spent about $1 million out of that. The other question being on...
Can we let everyone answer one question?
I only get to speak twice to an item. That's fine. You'll allow me to speak more? Okay.
Yes, it makes it a little confusing.
Sure.
To our CFO to reply that with our hands.
There are a couple of items in here that are big dollar values in capital assets, and I believe those projects won't be undertaken, or certainly haven't been undertaken thus far. And that's the West Side Fire Protection and the multi-utility. And maybe
our CFO will speak to why we haven't undertaken those projects.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we talked about these multi-utility projects in the budget process that unless we get a grant, we won't undertake the process. The community agreed to borrow $5.2 million to fund this with a 12.73% tax increase over 25 years. We, Council, undertook a big tax increase last year to not undertake that significant amount of borrowing, and we're planning on delivering these processes throughout the term of Council, so we're catching up. We are not undertaking any of those multi-utility projects unless Council says borrow the money, or unless we get the grants. So again, we're before Council with the grant. So we would indicate that, for instance, we indicate a $3.324 million project for 3rd Street and 22nd Street in the budget if we got the grant for that. If we don't get this grant, we're not undertaking this work. So we're grant dependent on this project. So as we move through these, some of these projects as we present them to Council, they are grant dependent. This one was not grant dependent. The 5th Street water main, which is being constructed right now. As we move through some of these projects here, we have another one in here that was this one here, the UV. This one we got a grant on. Westside Fire Protection, almost $1 million. We're waiting for the grant on that. So again, we have to wait for these grants, and that's why we juggle the financial plan, because we don't have this cash. We don't have $7 million to undertake this work. So what we're doing is we're simply waiting for these grants, and we put these in as these projects as multi-utilities, but now they've become secondary in priority. Other than 22nd Street, we're not doing as a multi-utility. We've talked about this already, that we're looking at the paving of that, and you'll see that later on in the reports from the Manager of Engineering. But there are several things that we have to consider as we move along, and staff are always considering these as we do this, so we can leverage the funding for provincial and federal levels.
Just a follow-up to
Yes, Councillor Butler, was your question?
So I'm glad to see that we're not undertaking debt, and actually I'm happy to see that we aren't undertaking a lot of these projects. I'm glad that we're more reserved in our spending, but I do see that there are projects there that were allocated out of general capital reserve, equipment reserve. I'm wondering why those projects haven't gone forward, and also with the sidewalk for Silver Kettle that the community has been so adamant about. I know we're interested in developers taking that on, but how long are we going to wait on that project?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So again, on some of the projects, say for instance, the truck, that can take up to 1.5 years to purchase a truck. By the time you go out for RFP, by the time you get the design, and it can roll over into another budget cycle. So we just don't run out there and do that, because we have to make sure that we have to follow our purchasing policy. So when we do that, we want to make sure it's fair and equitable to as per the policy. The Silver Kettle sidewalk. Again, we were in process earlier this year where the developer was at the table. We had reached a bit of a servicing agreement that hadn't been addressed yet. But again, that process has been hanging on because the developer was going to spend the money. We're happy to go out and prioritize this way above water and wastewater if Council wants that. But again, this is something that we're trying to maximize the dollars being spent by the developer to build some of the stuff for us. So we don't want to go out and spend taxpayer dollars on something like this when we have a developer that is very close to investing into that for the city. That will take the burden off. That was going to be about an $85,000 hit to the developer who was going to pay for that piece. And then we're going to construct the whole thing while we're doing it. So again, we want to make sure we're leveraging dollars. And yes, it does put some pieces in there that do slow things down, but we can work with the folks at Silver Kettle to find some solutions. They said that they weren't amicable to them, but while we're waiting for several, $100,000, we want to make sure that we're waiting and we can go after and leverage our funds here. But again, throughout these processes, Mr. Mayor, if I could there's certain things we were not going to undertake, like the Whispers of Hope roof. It was in the budget, but we're not doing that until we have an understanding of what we're doing with that building. The Public Works fuel tanks, these things take some time. The pickleball courts, they just were completed. West Side Fire Protection, East Side Reservoir Study. I mean, all these things, voltage conversion, all these things, they're so big. When we look at these on the paper, they're so small, but there is so much work that goes into them with the team members. When we're running a lean operation, we could really have another layer of managers in here managing all these projects. When you look at this, so the managers are running their day-to-day operations and managing these along the side. So if you look at these in the order of magnitude, they take a little bit of time to undertake. You're just talking about the beacons being completed this year. Now you're going to talk about a new process. The playground, you approved that earlier on in the year, and we just cut the ribbon on it not that long ago because we had the grant and we had all that in place. So if I could just bring it to council that when we have the stuff in place, it can take us right into the beginning of the new year to finish these projects. Some of them don't just happen where we can run out and spend the money. Like, if you were to go out and spend the money tomorrow and you wanted a new pair of shoes, you could run down to the store and buy a pair of shoes. Whereas we can't do that because we're restricted because we have to get 3 prices. We have potentially have to get the design done, and then we have to go out and spec out our material, for instance, like the truck. So I hope that creates a bit of a clearer picture for us that we are very careful in how we spend the money when it comes to all of these projects to make sure that we're meeting policy. How many more questions?
Last question. I mean, I had a lot more, and that's why I like to do a workshop on these things so that council can be more informed of what's going on in the city. But to limit it to one more question, I guess it would just be the bottom line here on page 38 under reserve income and transfers. Where council is of the understanding that we're putting away money into reserves each year, but our opening balance is 3.6 million and our closing balance after capital allocations is 3 million. It seems like we're decreasing in our reserves over this year. So how is it that we're actually increasing when the bottom line looks like we're decreasing?
Or CFO.
This spreadsheet actually represents up to the line where it says balance September 30th is actual transactions that have occurred, and then anticipated capital expenditures for the year, but it doesn't actually take into account any transfers from operating or other surpluses, because those will be done at the end of the year.
Councillor Tripp, I'll give you latitude for one more time.
Thank you.
And then Councillor Ross.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I just really appreciate, as you folks know, I wasn't here for the budgeting process, and I really appreciate explanation of the numbers there, what is grant dependent, what isn't, and so on. And so I'm also really looking forward to the workshop that we'll have that will able to help us just really see a lot more clearly what is happening with all of these projects. Thank you very much.
Councillor Ross.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to echo that, and I understand that this is done in real time, so that this is where we are at the time of this report being done. Therefore, there are a lot of outstanding bills. There's contracts that haven't been billed in yet and paid out, and that will happen by the end of this fiscal year, so that when we get the report in January that shows our year ending, that a lot of these zeros are going to be 100%, or 80%, or 85%. And so, I'm looking forward to that, but I understand this is a living document because that's the way we run a business. And I think it's great, but I also understand why there's zeros and not, we're going to be paying out and ending our fiscal year in December. And we're going to see this balancing a lot better. And also, things have changed. We've had opportunities for grants that have, we budgeted for it, and we didn't have to spend that money, so we can reallocate those funds. So just want to thank you for this and understand that it's a living document.
And I'd like to extend and commend our CFO for an excellent, concise report. Thank you. Unless there's any other questions, may I have all in favor, I should say, we already have the motions. Anyone opposed? So carried. Moving on to our monthly highlight reports from department managers. Subject matter staff request for council to receive the monthly activity reports from department managers. The recommendation is receive the monthly activity reports from department managers. May I have a mover, please? Councillor Tripp, Councillor Cabinet. Councillor Butler.
My microphone's not working. No, it's just. No. For the Manager of Development and Engineering, I'd like to get some information on a couple of the items here. Continuing with legal requirements for land sale to close October 31st. I'm just wondering if that did close October 31st. And 2 excavation permits. I'm wondering where those were for.
Where am I?
Mr. Mayor, when it comes to the legal pieces, we won't be able to speak to the actual legal components of this. The closing of the land deal, is this something that can be disclosed in public at this point? Okay, so we just can't speak to any of the legal aspects of it. So if you can pass.
Yeah, it's closed on.
Sure, you can speak to that because I think that was released too.
Yeah, it's closed on the 31st. I mean, everything was fine.
Which is that one?
Which one?
The 7114 2nd Street. and yeah, and it was voted to release from in camera. So,
Mr. Mayor, just to be clear, we purchased the property at 7114 2nd Street, and council is going to be considering a report in the public on what we're going to be looking at with the property.
And the 2 excavations?
Yeah, I believe both of those are to do with the fiber installation or upgrades to cable.
Councillor Tripp?
Thank you, Mayor Conrad. Yes, I had some questions on the building inspection report, and I don't see that individual here. So I'm just wondering if my questions might be able to be answered by someone else. The question was, well, a comment too, 3 new single-family dwellings. Woohoo! That's awesome. I'm so excited to see that. And then there was a comment in there, the building permits, excuse me, have exceeded $2.5 million. And I just was wondering, was it for those single-family dwellings, or are there more in the works?
We'd have to get that.
Yeah, we'd have to get that. We can get that report to you.
Thank you.
Our Building and Bylaw Services. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Your Worship. My interpretation of that comment on the value is of all the building permits given out in 2016, the total value of the construction in those permits is $2.5 million.
So that includes.
It includes everything.
Thank you.
That's a big deal.
Councillor Butler.
Under electrical, Mr. Mayor, it says we ordered LED lights for a pilot project. Can't remember what that project was.
Our Manager of Operations.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That was where we were going to buy a couple different styles of LED lights. We're going to put them up and look for some public feedback this year. Then we'll do the lighting design hopefully next year and implement the program for 2018, I believe.
For street lighting, is that what?
For changing over to LED street lighting, yes.
On the bylaws section, I'd just like to make a comment. It's come to my attention this morning from Mr. Alcock and Mr. Copan that 3 properties, the projects have been completed with successive cleanup. So I'd like to commend them for their great work, and they're still going. And to our CEO.
Just as a follow-up to that, the neighbors had come out, and the one lady was almost in tears because she said it was the first time since she's moved into her house that she can actually go out into her yard. Because the amount of garbage and stuff that was removed from the property, the residents that live around it were, what happened was on Friday, a group went in, they took away 5 large of those big industrial bins of material away, the dilapidated camper and bins, and they took it all away. The house was condemned, and essentially it was been boarded up. And the bank now will manage what they're going to do with the home. But the neighbors around there, my visit with them when I was on site was the neighbor came to me and said they don't sleep at night because of the people coming and going and the illegal activities that are going on the site. So again, these are the neighbors that are affected by it on the ground. And the one fellow, they were actually in the council meeting, and when I saw them out in the hallway, they didn't believe that anything was going to happen. And I know that they're truly thankful for council by pursuing this. So again, this is part of the process. You only hear those complaining that are affected, but just remember in the community there's 3,900 other people that are drastically affected by those people that are not keeping their properties in order.
And just a quick follow-up, there will be a PowerPoint presentation with pictures, so we'll be able to see it, but it's so premature at this point. This is just great news, early morning news. Okay, so all in favor of the motion? Anyone opposed? So carried. Okay, we have no reports or discussion, bylaws, information, no late items. Move on to question period from the public. Do we have anyone that has any questions? lady in the second row, I believe it is, first and second.
Yes, Gloria Cook. I was delayed in getting here, so I couldn't ask anything earlier. So a broad question regarding the sewer phasing plan, etc. Will or can we have further input? Can the public have further input to this process and these plans when they come up, or as soon as we can, or whatever? I had some points that I would like to address, but this is late now, so can there be some input from the public
I will pass that on to our CEO.
in near future?
Mr. Mayor, so part of that process, the public already has considerable consultation on this when we went out for the subdivision and servicing bylaw, the groundwater protection plan. They all alluded to the direction that council was moving. Absolutely, there will be more consultation that would happen when we do this, because one of the things that we want to be able to pass along to the residents is the timing of the projects and other things that we might not understand that they're going to be affected by. So I guess there will be questions from residents. Will we be required to connect to the sewer once the sewer is in place? And that will be the big question in the community, and council will have the ability to set that. I will tell you this, once you have a sewer phasing plan and sewer pipe in place, Interior Health will not authorize a septic field to a person where the sewer is passing in front of their home. Interior Health will not allow for that. So, but should somebody want to extend the life of their septic system, again, that will be up to council to determine when people connect. So the community will be able to provide input to the council, and I've seen this throughout many communities, as councils have gone to the point where they said within 6 months you shall connect, or you shall connect within 3 or 5 years, or whatever the case may be. The opportunity is there. So again, depends if the grant folks will what they require from you. Should they give you a multi-million dollars towards the installation of it? Because you're doing the sewer phasing plan. You're just talking about the years in which a neighborhood might get connected. The actual dollars when they come in, now that you have a plan, now you can apply for funding from the federal and provincial government to install the pipes, and then they'll ask you to attach a policy to that for connection requirements. So there will be considerable public consultation along the way on that, because it will be a process that will take, I would say, a couple of years.
Can I just have one more, please? Some of my concerns were to do with the treatment of the sludge, so that's where I was going with this. As to the input.
Oh.
Where's he?
Mr. Mayor, the only place that the public will get the input on the treatment of sludge is the application, whether it's where we're required to go out for public consultation, because at that point it becomes operational. We're going to meet our federal obligations associated with that according to health. The public will not get to say, I'd like to have 5 wheelbarrows to take down to my yard. No, that won't happen. We will not. There's opportunities where the public can have consultation, and there's times where it's federally mandated upon us and there is no consultation. So it's not meant to be considered to be non-responsive to the public. It's just there's points where we just can't talk to you about that. You can't say that that's a good idea, we need to do that. We have to consider the parameters that we're able to work within. So we are going to be given some strict guidelines on how to do that, and we'll be guided through that process through engineers. We will not, our staff won't be handling that. That will be only managed through professional services.
Councillor Tripp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, just through to the CAO. And in terms of I was just going back to the location of the new sewer projects and the new sewer phasing program. How would that be undertaken, or has that already taken place?
Mr. Mayor, so to respond to that, what happens is we'll come into each of the neighborhoods, and what will happen is there'll be a contour assessment. The engineers will come through and they'll determine where the pumping capacity is, where there'll be opportunities to go with gravity, water table, high water marks. These types of things will be all considered. When we go back to the public with that, we'll take all of those challenges to the public, and we'll talk about those things, because there'll be timing of which we may find that we have like an older neighborhood in town that requires the sewer phasing plan or the sewer pipes to be at a higher, more high level of importance to that neighborhood, rather than a new neighborhood that is, maybe built in the 80s or 70s. There may be some neighborhoods from the 40s or 50s where their septic fields are more likely to be filled. So there's a whole bunch of parameters that are are looked at before we bring it to the public. So we may have found through Interior Health, they may have reports that suggest that there's certain areas of town that have a high level of septic failure or septic tank failure. They would tell us that information, say you would have to concentrate on this area first. You need to take that forward to the public because there's higher public health risks. So when we take that forward to the public, they'll provide us more input. The public might tell us, hey, wait a minute, my septic tank's going to fail here. I want it done in my neighborhood quicker than in that neighborhood. And there may be neighbors that come forward and say, well, I don't want mine done until 2052. These are the horizons you're going to be looking at for septic installation. You're not going to be looking at a 5 to 10 year plan for sewer in the community unless the provincial government comes along with $20 or $50 million. You're looking at a horizon, you're probably going to be spanning it over 50 or 60 years, and it's going to be a very high level plan. You are not going to be in a position where you're going to be dealing with this quickly. You might have areas where you want to take something over to the borders of the community to allow for, should regional district people want to incorporate into the city and council to consider that, then you would already have the sewer manholes available. Should you want to bring in an area like College Road, for instance, if they said, well, we have a high level of failures in that area and there's nothing that they can do, you would want to be ready for that to happen, and they could apply to the city, and then you could incorporate and expand those. So you want to look at the long-term effects of effluent on the aquifer and these types of things. So there'll be a whole bunch of reports and everything that will come together, and then that'll be brought to the public. It won't just be we're picking this off of our favorite areas. It'll be a scientific decision.
Thank you.
Councillor Ross.
When I went to the medium-sized communities forum at UBCM, one of the things that they did talk about was composting toilets and the advancement in that technology. So as we actually talk about hooking people into a main line for sludge removal, sewer removal, in the meantime, the technology around composting toilet is increasing at such a fast rate that many municipalities around the world are actually allowing it. So maybe that's something we're going to keep our eye on those things anyway.
That's a good idea.
Obviously, it'll have to come under CSA first.
Well, that's what's happening, yeah.
So gentleman in the second row.
Good day, Your Worship and councillors. My name is Nigel James. I'm a resident of Grand Forks. The budgetary process, there are certain workshops and dates and so on, and which I would like to know when they are to see if I can attend as such and observe what's happening.
Absolutely, I believe they're going to be posted.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, we'll be bringing that forward to council just like we did last year. I think there was about 6 or 7 workshops that we had open to the public last year. So again, we'll be extending that. So we'll be putting that date out once council has adopted, I think it's at the next council meeting, council will be considering their council meetings for 2017. Simultaneous to that, we'll be bringing forward the budget workshops for council to be considered. So it'll be a busy winter, three months over the winter.
Hopefully, Mr. James, you will not be the only individual at our budget workshop this year.
However, I've got plenty of time on my hands to
Councillor Thompson.
Do we not advertise in the local newspaper the meeting dates too, so they'll...
Yeah.
You know, if you keep on the agendas and the eye on the paper and so on and so forth, you'll know, Nigel.
It's just that it's November now, and there's only one more month this year. Time is progressing.
Isn't it? All right, then. So if we have no other questions, I think we already had... Yeah, okay, this. So moving along now to our in-camera resolution from our Chief Administrative Officer. Immediately following the Committee of the Whole meeting, Council will hold an in-camera meeting. And the recommendation is that Council convene an in-camera meeting as outlined under Section 90 of the Community Charter to discuss matters in a closed meeting which are subject to Section 91E, the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements if council considers that disclosure could be reasonably expected to harm the interest of the municipality. Be it further resolved that persons other than members, officers, or other persons to whom council may deem necessary to conduct city business will be excluded from the in-camera meeting. May I have a motion? Councillor Tripp, seconder. Councillor Ross. All in favor?